Welcome to Podcast This Escape, the podcast where we talk about the escape room that we escaped from in the previous episode of this podcast.
And escape we did.
Matt, that was fantastic. We loved it.
Fantastic time.
Yeah, glad you guys enjoyed it.
It was great. This is my type of room. It was puzzles beginning to end, essentially.
And it was just really nicely put together. Like, the cluing and the connections were always completely unambiguous. They were really fun. There were lots of little keywords. Like, the only moments that we got stuck were moments where we had forgotten the thing that you had already effectively told us to do with the room design. We had made notes to do it and then ignored it completely.
I do grant you, my notes are a bizarre mess. The order to my notes is shockingly
bad. My notes are quite
bad.
messy, actually. I wonder why.
It's because we had circles.
I know what it is. I know why my notes are a mess. It's because I got to the end of a single page of notes and I went, I don't want to do another page of notes. So I changed how many notes I was taking.
That maybe that was how it started for me as well. Eventually I gave up, so I've got a page and a half.
But no, Danny, did you have a favourite sort of moment or thing in this room that you enjoyed doing, that you felt good about?
I felt good about most of it.
Right?
That's going to be really hard to judge. Like, anytime making a connection between things and like feeling good about it, like. Oh, even just being able to say, hey, these 3 pictures are going to be related to the shadow media desks.
That was great.
Discs.
You did some very good catches. I was very impressed by you noticing that
the date-related stuff.
The moon was a copy of the room that we were in. I was not going to get there. That was a bit of fun. That was really smart.
That felt nice.
That was good. And that was great to do. Like, at what point did you just, like, think about that? Does that feel like something you'd almost have to start from the beginning to know that was going to happen?
Yeah, so I think some of the room design with this, I kind of started with just kind of the idea of, hey, there's some interesting things with like light and shadows and having it that, hey, you could like reverse something. Since so often it's like, oh yeah, you flip a switch and then you just leave that switch on. And so then I was like, well, what if you need to turn it on and then you need to turn it back off? And so then was like, okay, if you have light and shadows, what could you do with that? And it was like, hey, maybe something with like planets or astronomy or something like that. And so then that's kind of where the theme started. And I'd say the telescope imagery, I ended up kind of after laying out the room, I forget exactly where in the process, but that using the layout of the room as the map within the telescope, I think I already had most of the room kind of laid out, but then I kind of moved some things around to kind of reorder things so that they're a little bit more spaced out.
Nice.
That it would work out well for that type of mapping.
I just also recalled, Billy, in my notebooks, I have a list of room ideas that I have not yet enacted, and I tick them off as I go. Like, you can see here, we've got ice cream store, casino. On my phone, I have one document that I've had for about a year.
And the only 2 things are ice cream shop and astronomy lab. You also don't know what an observatory is called because you called it an astronomy lab.
So I'm glad that someone else did this for me.
Yeah. All right. I thought that was really good. It was a great moment from you, Danny, and a fantastic puzzle at the end. Like, that moment of like, oh my God, this is the room they're in is so smart.
It was very good. I was feeling great about puzzles this whole way through. I was feeling smart.
I felt really good about doing the clock to the seconds, hours, minutes.
Of course, you got that. You got that before me. I got 3 digits, but I hadn't connected the HMS yet. Yeah, I hadn't done that quite yet, so you sped ahead of me there. And then, as we kept going further on, the puzzles started to get more, okay, you are being given the information, and hey, you're being given numbers here. It looks like this is going to be enough information to solve this puzzle, but it's not. It started making you have to think more and get more stuff.
I loved all the date stuff.
Great.
I loved the poster. And like thinking, like knowing, like I saw it like straight away, like, okay, we need to know this date and we'll be able to look it up. And then you noticing, no, we already have that date. We are going to get it from this. And I assumed we'd get the computer system to be able to backform the meeting, but actually we could always know the meeting, and that lets us understand the computer system. Was really smartly put together. Like the connection between all those was so smooth and so nice. I really liked it. All of the, like, I want to ask you how you did them all, but like they're all the same. They're all really nicely put together and connected. Like, is this the first room that you designed? Have you done a few of these, or how did that all work?
Yeah, so this was the first room which I designed, and it was an iterative process. And I think part of it is that I kind of started a little small, and I thought it was a little daunting to create a whole new room, so I kept kind of tacking more and more on, which ended up how it ended up for the original version of this being a significant amount longer, that I was able to trim it a little bit back. Since this, I've been able to write one other room, which I maybe by the time this podcast posts, I'll have the notes of that available for those who might want to check that out too. But
nice.
Yeah.
I mean, I would love to play that sometime. Should we ask about the things that got trimmed and cut from this, or will they appear in some other iteration that we might see later?
I think we can discuss some of that. Yeah, I'd say at a high level, some of the things that I used to kind of trim down on the time was just getting rid of some of the more menial tasks and making a few interactions a little bit more automatic. Beforehand, I was a little bit more strict on, oh yeah, you can't read that because the lights are off, or
I wondered,
yeah, you can't reach that. Okay, well, I dragged the chair over and now I can go up, and just making a few of those interactions a little bit, more of a seamless interaction. So that kind of helped cut down on some of the time. A few of the other things that was in the original, so with the timing of it, with Pluto being demoted, the model actually had Pluto removed that you had to find in the supply closet and reattach it.
Oh, yeah, that's fun. That's fun.
Yep. There was also the ID card that you found in the raffle box. It had a date on it for when the member joined, which you would look that up, and it had that he came up with this haiku of the club motto, which was something about sensing the direction of the universe to unlock the future, which at that point I actually had 3 drawers instead of 2, and the drawer which was then cut had directional lock, and so the word sense was like circled, and so it would be southeast, north, southeast type of thing.
Oh,
so
fun.
Yeah, so that was a simple little puzzle, but I thought, there was kind of enough other things in there. The biggest change by far, though, was the computer password puzzle. The original version of that was much more convoluted. So in this version, you got the clue that they changed the password based on the equinoxes, and then you see what the latest one is with that clue, and you combine it with the letters that you see on the glow in the dark.
Yeah, very lovely puzzle. Very much enjoyed.
Yep. So the original version of that puzzle actually had it that you looked at the previous one, and it said you need to add together the previous passwords prior to that, and each of those had a clue that you had to solve that was related to their research. And one of them said, like, yeah, it's the title of our paper, and it was like this acronym that you saw spelled out solar, and the other one, the paper spelled out lunar. And then with those, you had to translate solar and lunar into the numbers, add them together, and then translate them back to letters to spell orbit.
Yeah, that's a bit ridiculous.
Pretty complicated.
That could be and I can see that, but I love it as a puzzle. It's so much more complicated. But yeah, it would have been like a huge extra time sink. So I can see how the room got to 3 hours.
Was it easy or really hard to figure out what to cut back when making it shorter? Because, oh boy, from the way that I write rooms, I would find that crazy hard.
Yeah, I'd say the password puzzle simplification was the first to go. So it was like, okay, that I knew took up a significant amount of time, and I knew that was fairly self-contained, that I would be able to kind of cut various things, and it wouldn't bypass the fun level of the puzzles too much. The second thing was, removing the changing from 3 drawers down to 2, and kind of reordering where the different hints were within the drawers accordingly, just to remove one additional puzzle there, because there was a lot of times where the playtesters wouldn't find the ID card immediately by searching the raffle box and such, and so that
did take a while.
Yeah.
That was a surprise how long that took
to actually
it
rotate.
feels like a thing that you do
because it just felt
instantly.
like, I think because we had the key not available, there was a moment of like, oh look, there's obviously other stuff to do with the raffle box, but it's probably not going to get us the key. So in my head, I just sort of went, we'll deal with that. We have a key.
I think it was literally the ease to which you said, oh, can we look into it? And Matt, you basically went, well, yeah.
Yeah, they were just like, oh,
all right, well, that must be useless.
Yeah.
Yeah, there was one playtest I did where after some of this redesign that, interestingly enough, the people never ended up looking in the raffle box until they unlocked it, and then they found the ID card. But yeah, it still works with that. So yeah, I think those
but it is
were
nice to see it early because it gives you a goal. It gives you like
that is going to be an end point rather than a midpoint.
Yeah, which is it's a good feeling to have to see what you need early on. I like it was so when we did look in it, it was very. I don't know. It gives you like a nice sense of progression, even though you haven't achieved anything. It's very fun.
That's it. The one thing, and I would love to know what your playtesters did in this regard, because we found that tape and we immediately said, I know what's happening with that. Here's our final goal. Here's what we're aiming for. And you can have that, and that is fun. But it is also fun to have people get to the end and say, great, I've got this key card. But what do I do? And then wait for a moment and then go, I've got it.
Yeah,
At the end, those are two very different experiences. What did you see more of?
Yeah, I definitely saw both extremes. There was one side which I don't know if it was right at the beginning, but some point maybe early on that they kind of said, hey, maybe something with, like extending the tape down to. But yeah, there was at least one playtest that had finally got the ID card out, and they're like, okay, what do I do with this? They try and like tap it to the inside of the door, and it's like, nope, it's not close enough, and you need to continue to solve that.
I was the weirdest mix of the two because I immediately said, oh, we're going to have to dangle a thing outside the window of the observatory to tap the door. I was like, that's just going to be true. I would never have thought, I was not going to think of the tape. Like you went Rapunzel because it's like let down your hair.
It's like the prettiest drawing I drew. That tape was the main focus of my
all
room
I got
sketching.
That was like, oh, at some point we're going to have to look up one of the previous club members and their name will be Rapunzel and this is her tape and that's going to be relevant. I never thought, I was like, there's going to be fishing wire upstairs for
Every time we were looking for passwords and things like that, I would always look back to the tape and I would go, no, I know that Rapunzel is a reference to the tape itself. I just know it.
Yeah, I would not have. So I would have been weirdly in the middle, knowing I needed a string and never thinking that the tape could be that string until the end. So you cracked that very well.
Good teamwork.
Yeah.
It's so fun. I just want also, just to make sure it gets its acknowledgement, mini logic puzzle with the buttons for the control. I love it.
Loved that.
It's not too long. It's a good, concise one. I love it. Anytime, I know some people aren't like this in any escape room situation when I see a logic puzzle, my brain just goes into a special relaxed state of, okay, I know what I'm doing here. This is my element. I'm okay with this.
But it was also really, there's so rarely, a logic puzzle so rarely fits well into the kind of logic of the room.
Of course.
Right? This one did. I really like this, right? The idea of like, oh guys, I installed this so wrong. Sorry. I kind of did this. And obviously there's a little bit of like suspension disbelief is like, well, just tell me how you installed it. Like, no, I'll give you some hints. But I liked it. I thought it made sense in the world and then it was fun to do. And it was so immediately actionable as like, I almost feel bad we didn't find it earlier and try the buttons and have them fail. Like I always wonder if like you had them not be labeled at all. I wonder if it almost would have been fun to like label them the way they're meant to be labeled, but they don't do the right functions. Was that ever part of your plan?
I think I had fairly early on that they would be unlabeled so you wouldn't know. And I purposely had it to power on. You had to press two buttons at the same time.
Of course.
So that way you couldn't just
go
I try all these various combinations and such. Yeah.
You know what? Yeah, since power on off was the first thing, it would have been quite difficult to make anything work by attempting to mess with it without the knowledge.
Oh, yeah, exactly. I just like the idea of being able to be like, they're labeled as they're meant to be, and like, great, I'll press open.
No,
like,
I totally
work,
get
loser.
it. With the specific controls and the way they worked for this one, it would have been tricky to make that happen. But I agree that is also fun.
Yeah. But I really like that. It's one of these ones where which happens, in a lot of rooms. But this one, I just love it. Like, I'm looking back at every puzzle we did, and I'm just like, yep, that was great. Yep, that went really well.
Yeah, at no point was there a puzzle.
Lime.
There was no puzzle that I got frustrated or bored with, or a moment where I was overly annoyed. Not even when, like, we were stuck because of our own silliness of forgetting things and organizing our notes badly. At no point did I feel bad and like, oh no, we're stuck, oh, we're floundering here, it feels like we're lagging. Not once. I felt great through this whole thing. This was a long room. It did not feel like a long dragging room.
And the only thing that we screwed up was forgetting the thing that we'd already thought
of.
And not melting our liquid in the sun. To what I think is subtly a really nice thing, right? Was the supernova orange lime, right? Was done really well because there was no point where someone had to say, like, the classic thing that people do in Escape Room is like having a note somewhere, be like missing flavors or something, like look for the missing flavors. It was obvious we had to look for the missing flavors because it's like that's the only information that we had. It was like, there is 6 by 2. Here is everything that's left, and it's like, great. That stuff doesn't matter. The only thing that's going to matter is is what are we missing to make up 6 times 2?
Yep.
Nothing ever had to lead us that way, just because it's really like nicely and clearly designed. Like, what are you going to get from this other than what's missing, right? Like, surely you realize that's all that you're going to get. And then we just knew supernova orange lime as a concept. No idea where to put it, but just like we were 100% on supernova orange lime. And so as soon as you saw the word supernova, it's like, great, I know.
And then we got category, and category could have been anything, but wavelengths, we know wavelengths means color. So that was immediately getting there, even before we knew what our options were.
So often, like, someone would almost design that like kind of clearly, and would have to add a little hint of, like,
depending on who your audience is. Like, we've talked with designers before who are designing like actual physical escape rooms, and often you have to pare things down for the wider audience.
This is good for
us.
I'm glad
playing. That we didn't.
And I'm sure if this was a room that physically existed somewhere, then you might have to add like missing, like you'd run it like 100 times for people who've never done an escape room before. You'd be like, all right, I'll put a little note that says missing flavors, please. And they'll be like, oh, sweet, missing flavors. But for us, like it was a perfect like little example of hinting in puzzle design. So it was really good. Every element of this was really fun. I'm very impressed. Like, you should be so proud of this room. There's lots of really cool little things. It's great. It all connects.
Yeah, I very much want to play what you have next.
Yeah. If there's another one, just cut it down to less than 4.
I will accept a 3-hour one, knowing the quality of this.
Well, at least the 2 parts ruin our entire upload schedule forever.
Yeah, I will definitely, once I do a few more play tests of that, I'll maybe reach out, and if you guys are interested, we can maybe schedule something in the future.
It was lovely. Oh, Danny, I was incredibly impressed by your clarity in the understanding of the
cleaning calendar
schedule, because I was getting the right idea. I was like, oh, wait a minute, this connects to the numbers, or to the planets, and the planets have numbers. So maybe if we order these in the order of the planets, then we'll get. And you having that clarity of like, no, what do we want? We want a digit of 1 to 9 for each of these
well
entries.
done, because I believe you got the connection between the digits on the keypad are 1 to 9, and we have 1 to 9 planets, obviously, on this list. I believe you made that connection a bit faster than I did there. But I swapped around. I just reversed what you were thinking, and that made it
really
click.
nice. And the puzzle was great. I have a question, actually.
Sure.
It felt so relevant that there was weird light banding on that calendar. And we were looking so hard into it. And I don't think it ended up actually being super relevant for solving anything. What was the reasoning for that?
What did happen there?
Because I think it was just there.
So the light banding, it was just bands of light emphasizing the days of the week.
Okay, just to highlight that there are days of the week. Yeah, it's interesting. Because I just got to it, I was like, wait a minute, I don't know if we ever used that.
Now look at the picture again. I want to know, how much were we subconsciously doing that?
I don't know. I just think I realized there were days of the week. But maybe without it, I'd have been stuck. I don't know. It's interesting.
That is interesting. Oh, that's going to be hard to tell if unconsciously that was doing.
Yeah. Yeah, I just suddenly realized, like, I don't think it was, like, explicitly relevant for any kind of puzzle solving. It's fun. All right. We can probably end.
Do you have any other comments or anything
else about the room that's interesting, about how it developed, or things that you like or dislike?
Or anything where you're wondering, what were you thinking to us?
Yeah. Any questions about you from you?
Yeah. Yeah, I guess a couple other things that kind of changed. There was originally at one point you needed to have the dome opened before you could remove the bulb after you had heated stuff up. There wasn't a way to immediately like unplug it. You had to like unscrew it, but you had to like, there was a glove that was like caught in the dome that then opened and stuff. So it just kind of simplified a little bit there. Another thing that was simplified, the original version of the constellations, I just listed coordinates and you had to plot them. But this made it a little bit, just made it a little bit more streamlined.
That is fun. I think that is more fun earlier in a room. At the end of a room, that does have a slight more fatigue risk.
Because you're right. That is a great puzzle. If it was the first puzzle we did, would be very cool.
Yeah.
And then later you're like, no, I don't want my momentum interrupted. I want to boom, 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 boom. That's a good observation.
So it feels like you made good decisions.
Yeah, the things you cut, very smart.
It's hard because your original ideas were great, but they were also good editing decisions.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I think I've heard it.
A true kill your darlings moment.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I think I've heard something to the effect of trying to maximize the fun density.
Yeah, no, it's a good. Yeah, it's nice, right? Like, so sometimes you got to know when a task is gonna break up momentum in a good way or in a bad way, and like. So, yeah, I think that it was very smart decisions of what to keep and cut, even though the stuff you cut all sounds like it would be a lot of fun. It's right. It's just an interesting dynamic. Wonderful. Well, that was so much fun. If people wanted to see stuff that you've made or other things, is there anywhere people can go to check out more Matt Johnson things?
Sure. I think probably most relevant to your audience, I have an itch.io page. It's MattJ375. So Matt and then J, letter J, 375 at it.itch.io. And you can find a few different projects that I've uploaded there. In addition to, you'll find this room, and maybe by the time this episode's posted, there will be notes for the next room that I've written that maybe someday we'll be able to run on the show.
Wonderful.
If you are willing to do that, I think we'd be happy to.
Yeah, and there are links to all that in the show notes, so go and check it out. That is fantastic. Well, thank you so much for coming on and running the room for us.
Thank you so much.
We really enjoyed playing it. Thank you, Danny, for playing with me, even if you did spend way too long trying to do an anagram. You even lied to me. I was like, stop doing the anagram. You're like, I'm not doing the anagram. I'm looking at my notes. And then 2 seconds later, you're like, man, it's hard to be doing this anagram all the time. How dare you? In fact, no, I don't thank you at all. How dare you play this game with me? What's wrong with you? Thank you, Matt.
It's your fault that all our money goes to our mother.
Hey, that's the best piece of character building that we had. Kidney operation. It was a great bit. I think Kidney Operation was your bit, but still,
Kidney Operation was mine.
All right. Thank you, everybody, for listening. I hope you all enjoyed it. We'll see you next time. If you want to help support the show, tell a friend, leave a review on whatever app it is that you're using to listen to this. But yeah, tell people in the world. Go on Reddit and tell people. Go on Twitter and tweet about us. Legitimately, people listen to podcasts based on personal recommendation. So please personally recommend as much as you can. And other than that, if you want to help support the show, you can sign up. You can sign up to our Patreon.
You can help me write my interactive fiction that's going on there by making the decisions about what pages come up next.
Yeah, there's a live choose-your-own adventure style book happening in the Patreon. Thank you, everybody, for listening. Thank you, everybody, for being here.
Thank both of you.
Thanks for having me.